Welcome back. You are watching The Core, coming to you from Maiduguri in northeastern Nigeria, and we are in the premises of the Northeast Learning Center built by the Northeast Children Trust Fund. Now, before the break, we heard Mr. Jimovia talking about the scale of the problem and how they can make interventions that are significant, particularly for the young people involved, but which do not begin to address in sheer numbers what is required. He talked about UN intervention, and we've seen a myriad. In coming here, for example, I've noticed there are a lot of donors from EU to the US, all sorts of people are here. Is this the way to rebuild the Northeast, in your view?
I think everybody is actually contributing his or her own quota, and the problem of Northeast is not the problem of Northeast, but the problem of Nigeria, really. And when we talk about victim, which was where we started, it's important to say that we are all victims. Working here for like a space of 8 years and knowing what happens between the donor community, the international, the government, and being helpless also brings into question. It makes you a victim that post-conflict we all have to deal with PTSD also. But I think it's important in the sheer number, post-traumatic distress syndrome, because we see a lot. We are in the interlands, we are in the cities, we are talking to people, we feel helpless ourselves in terms of what can I put on the table. I don't do humanitarian, but I must build social cohesion. I must talk about how people will live beyond Boko Haram, really. So that comes into place. But when you look in terms of the orphan, the recent figure by the governor puts it at over 50,000. Those are the ones they have documented. There are more than that. And we have a school, this very good initiative, which takes possibly 2,000. So it means we still have 48,000, minus the undocumented orphans. When you drive around the city of Maiduguri, we see children. They are in droves. They are all there. And the fact that they are unaccompanied, they have no guardian, it also creates a stress for us in terms of what we do. For instance, UNICEF is doing good work. They are talking and dealing with children who are even involved in armed conflict specifically. There are lots of interventions, but these interventions must also be rooted in the local context.
And let me bring in, because we do have a number of people in the studio. Let me
talk in terms of just a bit of what the local context should actually be. It should be the culture, the ethos, and the tradition of the people of this region.
Yeah, I'd like to bring in the audience, people of Maiduguri, anybody, and I wouldn't mind a volunteer. Can someone talk to us about whether they feel the interventions that are taking place have been designed in a way that they would take into account local sensibilities and they will succeed? Anybody that can talk to us about that? Okay, there's a gentleman at the back. Sir, please tell us your name, yeah?
Don't stand.
You can sit down, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Barrister J.T. Kuda. I'm the legal advisor of the civilian JT. Well, I've had the question asked, but before going directly to questions, it actually touches the core of the body I'm representing. We know as a fact that the presidential initiative which Alhaji Tumsa is representing has quite a lot touches on us in view of the fact that as of now, as I'm talking to you, we have lost about 800 plus of the civilian JTF who died actively while confronting Boko Haram. Their families, wives, widows, and their kids are there, cannot even go to school. And we...
Is that because they're in areas where schools are not fully back, or what is stopping them from going to school?
Well, the family cannot support them. You know, let me tell you, with the coming of the civilian JTF, up to this moment, it is only with the gratuitous opportunity being given by the Borno State government, who, among the strength of the 26,000 plus of the civilian JTF, about 1,800 and something have been trained in a scheme called Boyes, and they are being paid 15,000 naira monthly. In addition to that, we have of recent one program designed by UNDP, and about 2,000 plus of our boys were trained in JOS. But that one, they have just received a best training on how to continue with their lives. In addition to that, recently the Borno State government brought out a program, what we call Neighborhood Watch. We are in each ward about 100 of the civilian JTF were employed to keep a watch, something like more or less community policing. We are at the end of the month, they are being given 10,000 naira each. Apart from that, the family of those I told you, they cannot go to school because the widows cannot afford to pay their school fees.
Okay, so I have to stop you there. Let me come back to the two people who, in many ways, represent the government on this panel. Are there like specific policies that are geared towards sorting out combatants, people who've been involved in defending the security of this country, that are so the civilian JTF, and maybe we can also talk about the provisions for the army. I mean, not too long ago, we saw a demonstration here in Maiduguri where policemen, took to the streets because they were very, very upset about not being taken care of, and their welfare was, problematic. So is there a policy at all around those sort of issues that you contribute or you work towards, since you know the full picture?
Well, actually, there are a variety of policies that are resident in different organizations. For instance, the Army has a policy to deal with issues that surround such events within the Army and within other areas that they are pursuing. Now, I have to also come back to the issue of the orphans. Now, this initiative is a very, very, very good initiative that has a vision to do 9 more. But like Jim Ovia says, it's only a drop in the ocean. A lot of partners are also doing a variety of things in terms of taking care of orphans, including foster care. And this has also taken quite a bit of orphans within the period of time. But a lot needs to be done.
So like Hidayat pointed out, and I noticed it as well, driving around Maiduguri, there's hordes of children begging, many of them unaccompanied. What is the situation with those children?
Those children historically have been part of Maiduguri for a while. There are those that you call Almajre, and then there are orphans. There's a difference there.
Dr. Mariam, should we then be optimistic about the recovery of the Northeast if you require 9 billion and you've got a government clearly that has responsibilities not just to the Northeast but to other parts of Nigeria in terms of sort of the way they have to share out the limited resources that they have? Can we get that sort of money to do what we need to do?
While we might not be able to get that sort of money at the same time or even be able to get that sort of money, I think, I'm certainly optimistic. I've seen changes, I've seen progress. And I think beyond just money, if there is the will, there's the understanding and there's the will, we can do a lot more than just waiting. Sometimes you find that even the more resources you have, the more confusion it is. People then start having, more lofty ideas and, things that become unrealistic. But sometimes when you don't have, it puts you in a position to actually sit back and think and prioritize better. So I'm optimistic because I have seen, in spite of everything, I've seen the challenges, I've seen the resilience in people. In putting together this intervention where we are now, for us it's a proof of concept of what can happen. And it's also a proof of concept around what coordination can mean and what working with minimal resources can also achieve. And it's in terms of when you talked about designing interventions that actually meets the needs of the local community. This was actually a demonstration of that because we're able to work with the local community to say, okay, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of culture, what can we do to meet that, but also building back better, if you'd like, but not taking away from what is normal or what is considered normal in the environment, and working with limited resources, but also leveraging on the strengths of the people. What do you do? What do you do well? What can you contribute here, for instance, and how can we put this kind of a place up that will still meet the needs of people? So I think I'm definitely optimistic, and I won't look at the numbers. It's important as a guide
But it's more important to say, okay, what problems are we facing directly, and how can we address
I want
that?
to take a quick opportunity to talk about that a little bit, but I want to talk about, because we were talking about looking after civilian JTF, I'd like to ask Brigadier General what the policy is specifically looking after soldiers who either get wounded or who die in the line of duty, and what happens with their families.
Yeah, beautiful. There are a lot of policies in place to deal with this kind of issues. Very robust one. We have the life policy insurance with us, and a lot of others. We have the Nigerian Army security insurance that is also paid to families of the bereaved. We have the benevolent fund and several other types of policies to really deal with this. So for us, yes, we have policies that are there to take care of such issues.
Now, a few years ago, we had incidents of, I think, mutiny, by junior officers in the Nigerian Army. There were stories of them being really upset with a commanding officer, and there were allegations that the reason was their allowances were not getting to them, etc.